here, back with one of your ICSE classes. Today I shall be going through one of your ICSE poems. The name of the poem is Daffodils by William Wordsworth. Okay, now before we go into the poem, let's know a few things about him. Now, Wordsworth was known as the poet priest of nature. Is known as the poet priest of nature. That means he regarded nature to be the all. So that's why he's regarded to be the pioneer of nature poets of the Romantic movement. There were many other poets like Wordsworth, besides Wordsworth, like Keats, Shelley, Byron, etc. But he is given the predominant position in terms of natural poetry or nature poetry, as we may say. So he was the primary exponent in that regard. Now, before we go into the details of the poem, we have to understand what is Romanticism. So, so Romanticism basically, in simple words, is love for nature. Okay, that's love for nature. Wordsworth regarded every object of nature to be a source of joy and happiness. Every object in nature to be a source of joy and happiness. So, every object, however lifeless it may appear, whether it's a tree or whether it's a stone, everything had the capability of providing beauty and happiness to him. Even objects of nature which were normally regarded to be kind of not so beautiful, like as I mentioned, pebbles, stones, etc., valleys with not too much of vegetation, etc. He regarded them also to be objects of worthy of being praised, worthy of being beautiful. Okay, so the beauty of the objects in nature, he reminisces about it. It fills up with joy, and many years later, even after you have left that particular place, it provides you with beauty. That's what he says. That means it's like this natural beauty is forever. Okay, this natural beauty is forever. You visit a place of natural beauty, and after maybe a year or two, it will still continue. Whenever you remember it, it will still continue to provide you with happiness. It will still continue to provide you with the calmness and that happiness which it generally provides in terms of the first time when you had seen it. So that's what he says. In fact, his famous quote goes like this: "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." That means when you see a beautiful sight, when you see a beautiful object of nature, it may be a beautiful rose, it may be a beautiful scenery, it may be a beautiful sunset, it may be a small colorful bird, no matter what it is, or a beautiful voice of some singing bird, anything that is appealing, that will continue in its endeavor to provide you with happiness. It won't go out of fashion. Okay, it won't go out of fashion. It will continue to give you happiness because it is an eternal source of beauty. That's what his Romanticism basically is about. So that's what he speaks about in this particular poem. You will have this kind of idea. Okay, his philosophy, his attitude towards nature, that's all is revealed to us in this poem. Now, the poem, the background, if we may say, it's a word picture of daffodils. Word picture, why? Because here you can openly see everything, as if you close your eyes, read the poem, and you can see the entire scenario which Wordsworth paints in his own words. So, where did this incident occur? It occurred at Ullswater in 1802. William Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy Wordsworth, they had seen it. They, on the 15th of April, they were passing by a strip of land on Glencoe Bay called Ullswater. This is the place where they saw this. This visit gave Wordsworth the inspiration to write this famous poem. It was earlier known by the title of "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud," which is the first line of the poem. It was earlier known by that. The poem was written in 1804 and published in the collection Poems in Two Volumes. Poems in Two Volumes. In 1807 it was published. Wordsworth revised and published it later in the collection Collected Poems. Okay, so now next, moving on to the central idea of the poem. The central idea of the poem seems to be the expression of the comfort and cheerfulness that the poet finds in the beauty of observing the daffodils. As he observes the daffodils, he enjoys a sense of beauty and he gets comfort, he is very relaxed, he is very cheerful at heart. That all is happening because of the presence of the daffodils. The poem expresses the idea of communion with nature and the tranquility it brings in our lives. Idea of communion with nature means man's soul being interlinked up with nature. That's the communion with nature. Other animals who are there in nature, they do not appreciate the beauty. They do not have that sense to appreciate the beauty. Man alone has that capability to enjoy and appreciate the beauty of nature. So he does that. And the tranquility it brings in our lives. Nature brings a kind of peace, a calm, tranquility to our lives, which is why we often go from the cities, from our busy, hectic schedule to some places and objects of nature, whether it is near the seaside, whether it is the hillside, whether it is to some the village, countryside, wherever it is we go, we are close to nature. Why? Nature provides us with that tranquility. Nature provides us with that happiness, with that soothing calmness. In fact, hermits, hermits go out into the forest, go out into the lap of nature to enjoy the beauty and to enjoy that calmness which nature provides. So it is a tribute to the beautiful daffodils and the joy inherent in nature. Nature gives man peace and joy and is a constant source of happiness. This is what I was saying. Man is provided with peace, joy and calmness of mind from nature, and nature is a constant source of happiness also. Nature gives the feeling that man and nature are one. That is what was the beginning, communion with nature. That is the same thing. The reciprocation, man is able to enjoy and appreciate the beauty of nature. Nature in turn is happy to show man the different colors, the different varieties that it has. Now the poem has 6-line stanzas with AB and CC rhyme scheme. The poem is written in iambic tetrameter, giving a subtle back and forth motion like swaying of daffodils. That swaying of daffodils is suggested through the subtle back and forth movement of the lines, the way it is written. Next point, it shows the clear shift from real world full of tension and stress to the utopian world of nature where peace and happiness prevail. So it kind of transports us back to that world of nature where we have peace, where we have happiness. All this prevails in that world of nature. So it takes us and transports us there. Lastly, the poem contains a feeling of loneliness which is marked by the death of Wordsworth's brother John. At the same time, he experiences happiness due to... Now, at the same time, the poem contains a sense of happiness which he experienced in the company of his sister Dorothy, and as well as his second marriage which took place during this time. So it marks a sense of happiness for him. He transcends, or he moves on forward from the death of his brother John on toward the things that he has at present. That is, he has the company of his sister, he has just about married. So all this happiness is kind of reflected in that enjoyment of the daffodils that he experiences. Okay, so let's move on to the line by line explanation of the text, and we shall start with the pages 26, Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. Now, I wandered lonely as a cloud. You have to write out the different parts of speech. I will explain it one by one. First, it's an example of simile. It's an example of simile. Simile, is comparison between two things, two objects, two person or a thing, and any two things on the basis of something which is common between them. The thing common here is loneliness. So I wandered lonely as a cloud. The poet is wandering alone, lonely, he says, here at least. We know the background that he and his sister were there, but here in the poem, he is all alone. So he is alone. The speck of cloud, it is said, a cloud. I wandered lonely as a cloud. As a cloud means a small speck of cloud in the sky. The cloud is alone in the sky. Here on land, the poet is all alone. So I wandered lonely as a cloud. Now, this is an example of simile. Next it is also an example of personification. How? Wandered lonely as a cloud. A cloud cannot be lonely. What is personification? Wherein inanimate objects are given human attributes or human qualities. So herein the cloud is given a human quality of loneliness. So that is why it's also a personification. Okay, that floats on high over vales and hills. Vales is a short form of valleys. Valleys and hills, over that the small speck of cloud is floating. Just like that, the poet is wandering all alone on the hills and valleys. When all at once I saw a crowd. This line, the third line, is an example of hyperbole, which is exaggeration also you can call it, wherein he says a crowd. A crowd is a large number of people. Here there is no people. There is no explanation in that regard, but what he wants to say is that the number of daffodils is too many, and by that he uses the word crowd, which exaggerates that particular point. So he says, when all at once I saw a crowd, that is, exaggerates and says, a host of golden daffodils. A host of golden daffodils, this is an example again of personification. Now, host, why? Or why is it personification? First of all, because of the use of the word host. Who is a host? The person who is inviting the guests. Suppose people come to your house for a birthday party or something. You are the host. The people who have come into this party, they are the guest. So you are the host, they are the guest. So here also the poet has arrived to this particular place, and who are the persons who are already existently there? The persons are the daffodils. Okay, the thing that are there are daffodils. They are the inhabitants as if of that place. The poet has come wandering here. So he is the guest. And who is the host? The daffodils, the golden daffodils. Why golden? Because they are yellowish flowers. You'll see in the picture, they are yellow flowers. So, golden daffodils, they are the host. They are inviting the guest, come, enjoy our company. To the poet they are saying this. So this is an example of personification. Why? Because the golden daffodils are regarded to be hosts who are inviting and entertaining the guests, just like human beings too. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, example of the location, as well as you can say alliteration, because the word be is repeated. Beside the lake, beneath the trees. Where are the daffodils blossoming? Beside the lake and beneath the trees, that is under the trees. Fluttering and dancing in the breeze, again the use of personification. Why personification? Again, fluttering and dancing. Fluttering, okay, you can associate, but dancing is something which we associate with human beings, but here dancing is associated with the flowers, the daffodils. So human quality, human attribute being put onto the flowers. So that is why personification. Clear? Now the next stanza. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. Now this is an example of simile. Why? You see there is the use of the word as. Continuous as the stars that shine. Now what is the point of comparison? The large number of daffodils are compared to the large number of stars and other planets and all on the galaxy of the Milky Way or the Akashganga as we know. So the large number of stars and other planetary bodies equal to the large number of flowers. That is the point of comparison, the large number. Okay, so both the another point is they are both eye-catching. That also is another point of comparison. The large number of stars and other planets in the sky are very eye-catching and appealing. Similarly, these large number of flowers, they are also large in number and they are also very eye-catching. So that is another point of comparison or simile between them. Now this line is also an example of inversion. Now what is inversion? Where the normal structure of sentence is not followed. The sentence words are kind of jumbled up and reversed. So continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the way. It could have been the stars are continuous and they shine and twinkle. It could have been like that. But here it is all jumbled up. So that is an example of inversion as well. I-N-V-E-R-S-I-O-N. Inversion. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. So, along the margin of a bay, if you go by the seaside, it seems to be endless. The seashore goes on and on. Similarly, the line of daffodils seems to be endless. That is why they stretched in never-ending line. Never-ending line. That means the line does not seem to end. There seems to be no end to the daffodils. It seems to go on and on. Along the margin of a bay, along the border of the bay, it went on. 10,000 saw I at a glance. Now, here there are many figures of speech. Number one is inversion. Why? I saw 10,000 flowers at a glance. It could have been like that. But the poet here jumbles up the words and the sentence is kind of jumbled up. 10,000 saw I at a glance. You see the verb is before, subject is later on. Saw I. Not I saw. It is written saw I. So, that's an example of inversion. Number one. Number two, it is also an example of hyperbole or exaggeration. That means here the poet exaggerates. They were not actually 10,000, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 at the most, but he says 10,000 saw I at a glance. So he exaggerates the number. The number is exaggerated too much. That's why it's an example of hyperbole. Tossing their heads in sprightly dance, in a happy dance, energetic dance. Sprightly means a very happy and energetic dance. They were tossing their heads, which is another example of personification. Why? The dance of the daffodils. The daffodils are said to be dancing again with a very excited manner. They are dancing. That is what the poet seems to suggest here, that they are dancing very fervently, very excitedly, just as youngsters would dance, or very excited dancers would dance. Just as that, the daffodils are dancing in that particular fashion. Moving on to the third stanza. The waves beside them danced. Now in the third stanza it says, the waves beside them danced. The waves beside them danced. Here also you see, this is an example of personification. Exactly why? Because just as in the case of the daffodils are said to be dancing. Dancing is something which we attribute to human beings. Here the waves are said to be dancing. So the fact is the same. The thing that is done by the human beings, that is dancing, is associated here with the waves. So the waves are said to be dancing. It's an example of personification. But they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. Outdid means they did far better. They did far better than whom? The sparkling waves in terms of glee. The glee means happiness. So as if a dance competition is going on between the daffodils on the one hand and the dance of the waves on the other hand. Waves of what? Waves of the lake. So in comparison to the manner in which the both of the waves and the daffodils are dancing, the daffodils are the sure shot winners. They are much better in terms of their performance and their dance as compared to the waves of the lake. So sparkling waves. Now why sparkling? Because the sunlight is falling on the waters of the lake, making the water shine, or the upper surface of the water shine. So that is why sparkling waves. How did I told that you're doing far better than the waves. Now one more thing is in glee. Glee is another word for happiness. This you will find very constantly these words being used, synonyms for happiness being regularly used. This is one of them. Glee. Next line. A poet could not but be gay. Gay again means happiness. A poet could not but be gay means a poet has to be gay. That means a poet has to be happy. Has to be happy. When? In such a jocund company. Jocund means again the meaning is happy. When he is surrounded by such happy companions, that is when he is surrounded by all these happy daffodils, how can the poet be sad? Automatically his mood will be uplifted. Automatically he will be happy. So a poet could not but be gay in such a jocund or a happy company. He has to be happy when he is surrounded by such happy, lovely companions who are dancing in the breeze. I gazed and gazed, but little thought. I gazed and gazed. This word is an example of alliteration. It suggests the manner in which the poet continued looking on and on. I gazed and gazed. So that is hinted at through the use of these words. I gazed and gazed, but little thought. Little thought means he did not realize then that this was going to be an everlasting experience. He did not know this at that time. He's just watching the daffodils. He's enjoying the beauty of nature. But little thought means he didn't think at that time. He didn't use his thinking power at that time. What wealth the show to me had brought. So at that time he didn't realize what a wealthy scene he is enjoying in terms of its naturalistic beauty, in terms of its artistic beauty, how valuable, how wealthy it is, he did not realize at that time. So the impact of the scene, you can say it is both immediate because he is attracted by it, he is standing there, he is watching it, as well as it is everlasting. Why? For years to come, for months to come, he will remember this scene and remember it and be happy all the time. So the effect of this scene on the poet is both immediate as well as everlasting also. So both ways, this experience was like that. Now, these three stanzas were written at a time when the poet is in front of the daffodils. The fourth one is a bit later on when maybe time has elapsed and he is now no longer now in the midst of those daffodils. He is far away from it. This fourth stanza is during that time. And he says, for oft when on my couch I lie. in vacant or in pensive mood. Oft is the short form of often. When on my couch I lie. The couch, the sofa that he lies on. Again, this is an example of inversion. Why? The sentences, as you see, I often lie on my couch. It could have been like that. But here what he writes, for oft when on my couch I lie. How? In vacant or in pensive mood. Vacant means in empty mind he is lying probably, number one. Or number two, in a pensive mood, in a thoughtful mood, he's thinking something. In that situation, what happens? They flash upon the inward eye. In the poet's imagination, in the poet's memory, or in the poet's mind, there's a flash. Just as we take a picture with the camera, there's a flash of light. Similarly, in his imagination, in his mind, there's a flash of light, and this vision comes out. Which vision? The vision of these beautiful daffodils. Which is the bliss of solitude. Again, another word used for happiness, or a synonym used for happiness, which is bliss. Bliss means happiness. Solitude means loneliness. Poet is all alone. He is all alone on the sofa, on the couch. He is lying down there. There is no one to give him company. He is all alone. Suddenly, in his mind, there is a flash, and he remembers this beautiful sight that he had seen. It comes flashing into his mind. And then my heart with pleasure fills. And then his heart fills up with pleasure. Then his heart is filled with pleasure. Again, pleasure is another synonym for happiness. His heart is filled with pleasure and dances with the daffodils. And what happens? He is as if transported back where? To that beautiful sight, that beautiful place where he had seen the beauty of the daffodils. He is as if, not physically, but mentally, as if he is transported there, and he enjoys peace. That sight again provides him with calmness, happiness, cheerfulness, and provides him with a lot of happiness at that time. So physically he is present here, but his mind goes back to the recollection of that sight, beautiful sight which he had seen. Because it's going to be an everlasting memory which is going to treasure. From time to time it is going to come back and provide him with happiness. So this is a treasurable moment for him, and he's going to remember him for the rest of his life. So I hope you have understood the poem as far as I have tried to explain to the best of my abilities. And if you like it, of course, give likes and share this video, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your love and support. Thanks for watching.